Good evening. Today I would like to show you how to use the adjustment layers in Photoshop, and the adjustment layers should help you to adjust your photos or your images. So we begin with where your adjustment layers are. So look at your right hand side of your Photoshop window and where we have the control panel. In Here you can see we have the colors, we have the swatches, and below it we have the adjustment layers. So I'll show you how to use the adjustment layers. And we begin with the first one, which is adding on brightness or contrast onto your images. But now begin to use the layers. And if you see, we have the original layer here. So we want to come up with another copy. So you can just drop or drag it to where we have create a new layer, then we'll have a copy. So we are working with this copy. But now in each adjustment we make, then the layer is formed or a new layer is formed. We begin with the first adjustment layer, that is adding on brightness and contrast onto your photos. So if you click on this, where it's indicated brightness or contrast, try to change from left to right and see what happens to your images. So if I move to my left hand side, then it's it changes to it becomes darker compared to when I drag it to the right hand side where the image is brighten. And also if you check the contrast area, we see what happens to your image. So you're contrasting the image, the colors that are present in your image. And then we move on to the other one. So you can see that layer was formed. So if I seal this, you can see or you can see the original photo how it was. But if I let's say I reveal it, then you can see that some brightness was added to that, and we do not want to use it. So I can drag again to the dustbin. Then we move on to the second one. With this one, you have the levels. You're creating a new level adjustment layer. So once you click here, you can play around with your levels. Like if you move to the right hand side, you see what happens to the image. It becomes darker on that end. And if I move from my right hand side towards the left, you see the levels is changing. And you can see also how it's moving. Like if you move on to this end, somehow it's higher than what is on your left hand side, and it's lower than what is on your right hand side. So you can adjust your layers using these levels. We move on to the other one, so I do not need this again, but you can just hide, and this is our original image. So we move on to the third one, which is the curves. You can choose to use the curves or the levels, the one that will be good for you. So here you play along with the curves. You can move the curves uh, towards the upper region or towards the downer region, or you can just try to make your photos like you want it to appear at the end. So you can just use these curves to adjust your photos, and especially when you move objects, or maybe you have edited an image and you feel like it do not have the right properties or the right adjustment. Um, so we remain again with our original image. So this is our original image. So we move on to the other adjustment layer, which is exposing your photos. So if you click on or you want to expose your layer, then you can either use exposure or offset or another gamma correction. But let's look at what the exposure does to our image. So you can either expose it completely or just a bit, or and again you can damage your image if you overdo it. So you can maybe adjust somehow. If the image was not so exposed, you can play with these adjustments. You can move or you can adjust, and maybe you leave it on where you find it's okay for you. And also don't make it to look unrealistic. Remember, these are photorealistic images, and if you play too much, then your images will not appear real at the end. Then we move on to the other adjustments layer where we can add on the vibrance. So you can reduce the vibrance and you see what happens to your image. You're trying to reduce its vibrance and see what happens. So you can also add. So you can move along with this cursor either to the left or to the right, and that is what happens to your image. Also, you can use the saturation. You see how the image is saturated, like the colors are all mixed, almost similar, and also its brightness has been reduced. You can also change to the other side. You can also add on the saturation and you see what happens to this image. Like some areas are, maybe they do have dry grass along this end. So just use these adjustment layers to make your photos also look real. Don't overdo them. We move on to the other layer, adjustment layer, which is the hue or saturation adjustments. So with the hue, you can also mix up these colors. Like if you move to the right hand side, you can have, or you can see the pink color coming in or coming through. If you move to your left hand side, then you can also see what happens to your colors. So sometimes you also edit a photo and you feel like, no, this is not the right color that I would want. And so you can come to where you have your hue or saturation properties and you change from there. Uh, you can also still play with its saturation, and especially when you're cropping an image or you have selected an image and you find like it's not fit on that area, and especially when you're editing or you are moving from one area to another area and you find that like one area is brighter than the other area, so you can come to these adjustment properties and you adjust them correctly. You can also add on some brightness, or you can reduce, like if you feel like you want your photo to appear darker and not lighter, then you can always go for this. Moving on to the other adjustment layer is the color balance. You can mix or you can balance your colors from here. We have cyan, we have magenta, and we have the yellow color. And if you move to the left, you see the color that appears somehow bluish. Is it really bluish or green? Yeah, it's bluish. And if you move on to the right, you see what happens to the image. Somehow it's getting red, and then but not totally red. So you're trying to mix up the different colors. With magenta, also this is what happens to your photos or your images. And especially when you're editing your photos, you may want to use some of these adjustment layers. Like you can see what happens also here. You can choose or you can go for this one and maybe do away with the others. This will depend on what you are editing. Um, we also move on to where you want your colors to appear black and white. You can adjust from here, and remember some of the images may not be visible, especially when you change some colors or when you change to black and white and try to uh, move along, or you try to interfere with some of its colors. It's now black and white, but you can still change where we have these colors. If blue was on this image, or your blue had been like the skies was blue, then you can either darken it, and then the area you had greenish or bluish, these two colors, the cyan and the green, then that is where it's affected mostly. Then with the red also this applies. So we had some red, like, let me hide this and then you see what happens. So we had some red here where you can see the red paintings here. So if I move, let me return. If I click on this one, you can see the readings is the one that is being affected. And then the area where we had blue, like on the skies, let me hide again. Look at the skies. We have the clouds, and we have some bluish clouds. The sky is blue. So let me look for the area where we have blue, the blue color. Yes. So you see the one that has the blue color is being affected or being affected on the other end. And then we have magenta. So where do we have magenta? So let me reveal this, and then you see where we see where our magenta is. So it's almost close to the red here. Let me reveal again, so you can see it's almost close to the red where we have it here. So if I reveal, you see what happens. So you take note of this last one, that is where the magenta color is red. Yeah. And then we have also the other color where we can filter your colors. You can change your colors from here. So you can filter to maybe to red, to orange, yellow, green, cyan, or you can just pick from here. You can click this. I think because I like pink, but that's okay. So look at its density. It's like some of the or this part of this image will appear pinkish if you add on its percentage, and if you reduce it, may not really affect the image. Let me choose another color, is yellow, then see what happens to our image. Yes, so you can change the photo filters also from here, and you choose what you feel like is okay for your image. Don't also go for some filters that look weird at the end, or once you print your product or you send to someone, it looks weird. It doesn't make any sense. So don't only use some of these filters or some of these adjustments for the sake of maybe earning something, but also look at what is ahead, or look at the good thing out of it. And then we have also uh, the other adjustments layer where you can mix your colors. You can mix all these colors. Yeah, can move this the cursor either to the right or to the bottom. But what happens when you mix many colors? The color the quality should increase, but look at what's happening here. You may not even note the difference, or you may not know that you have some green trees and some white pillars. It may create some confusion, so you should mix them keenly. Then you also have the color lookup. You can also try to use either of these, but this may not be necessary for now. Then you can invert your colors. So let me review that so that you can have the original photo. You can invert your colors. Like, is it really making sense? Yes, you ask yourself that question. If it's not making sense, then do away with it. Don't use it. Then you can also posterize your image or your photos, and still remember, these are photorealistic images. These are the images that were taken. They are real images and they have been scanned. So you can change the level of or when you posterize, and you see what happens. It may not change much, but when you move to the left, some difference may not bring in some reality. So some may not be useful. Then we have the other adjustments layer, like the threshold. This one may not be good, may not really apply to your images. And then we have a section or an adjustment layer where you can select your colors. So your selective colors, you can pick them from here. You can pick the color that you feel good for you. Then you can mix up, or you can choose. You can see what's happening to the image when you move your cursor to the left and to the right. So this one is affecting where we have the cyan color. Then when we have the magenta, remember magenta appeared here. So let's see what happens to that image. May not have too much effect because maybe we do not see the magenta. Then we have green. You can see what's happening to the image, especially this one when you add and when you deduct. But some you may not really apply them. Also, the other one is the gradient map. Like, which gradient do you want to apply on your image? So you can choose the color from here. So once you click here, then you can find the gradients that you can choose from and the one that is really effective for your image. So like this one, not really good for us. This one, and this applies maybe when you have shapes, not with these photos here. But remember, you can also select from here. You can adjust here. You can also pick another color, but make sure that at the end your photo appears real. Let's see what happens. You can also change color from here, or if you want to apply on your foreground or your background, you can change from the bottom. You can change from here. Okay, so this one does not matter, or we may not really need that. So these are the adjustment layers that you may require for your image. And especially when you crop an image or when you move an object and you want to apply some adjustment layers, or you want to change that area to appear like it's all similar, or it may not be seen like something changed or something was removed from that area. Let me try to also change for this one. I think the brightness is changed. Yeah, so you can reduce its brightness. You can use the adjustment layer. You can also change the contrast. Like now it's appearing like it's green grass. It's real. Then if you move on to where we have the levels, you can also change from here. And remember, it affects all or what is on that page. Yeah, so this is how you can use the adjustment layers, and it may apply to the just one image or two, what is on the background, or to the whole page. So with the adjustment layers, it makes your photos look perfect or look good for yourself. Thank you. Do have good time and also keep on practicing.